Friendship, what a beautiful evening, and what a beautiful, diverse topic of friendship. I'm going to tell you this evening some stories about friendships I've had over my life, and most specifically what I've learned from those friendships. So first, let me introduce myself as a social butterfly. I have a PhD in having fun. I was, and that contributed to, I have never had a problem with making friends. Now, that's a good job because my romantic endeavors are affected. So, I held friendship in the highest of value. And interestingly enough, I always said I never had a best friend. But takes me to my first story. Going back a good few years, when my younger brother's kids, 4 of them, were all about under 12. We were in the car driving, talking about life, as I do to children. And they piped up and said, "Dad told us that you were his best friend growing up." This was the sweetest, cutest thing I'd ever heard, tinged with disbelief that he had actually said it. They laughed at my disbelief, but they assured me he had. So I felt I had to reflect on this. Now, we grew up in the Irish countryside, on a farm, with lots of cows. And it wasn't a time, as you can tell, of technology, or sleepovers, or big birthday friends around. And so we spent every day together. We walked to school together, we walked home together, we worked together, and if anyone knows anything about a farm, work is never bloody ending. And we played together. And in those summer holidays, those 3 months of the school summer holidays, we used our imagination and our creativity together, and we had each other's backs. So I kind of had to admit, my brother was probably my first best friend. And school friends, aren't they just the best? I have a group of old school friends. Sorry about the old. The older you get, the more precious they become. And when we meet, we laugh, and we never get tired of the, "Do you remember?" Never. And I had a party recently, and the table of old school friends, a relatively new friend, went to the table of old school friends and said, "Okay, spill the beans. What was Patricia like going to school?" And they looked and laughed and said, "Exactly how she is now, absolutely cracked." But we laughed. So laughter is definitely the best medicine, and when it comes to old school friends, it's amazing. And then I had to leave home and go out and do that thing that you have to make money. And my first job, there was a group of us, and we were all kind of friends. And one friend in particular, we kind of built the friendship up over a few years. And then she went off and met somebody and fell for him hook, line, and sinker. Now, that's not a problem in itself. The problem was, I thought he was an arrogant prat. That kind of interfered with the whole thing. Anyway, it all culminated into one evening. We were supposed to meet. She turned up, because we had no phone back then. She turned up and said, "Sorry, Patricia, Dara's here. I can't meet you." And she left. And I was standing there, mouth agape, kind of going, "What just happened?" And I felt a bit upset, hurt, kind of abandoned, and pushed aside. Anyway, I got on with life, as you do. And interestingly enough, a few years later, I went home to Ireland. I left Ireland, then not long after that, I went home, and she actually apologized. She actually said he was a prat, he cheated on her, not once, but twice. So a bit of a footnote there. But anyway, a few years later, I'm dating a guy in London, and we're dating maybe 2-3 months, and he says, I'm having a party on Saturday night, and he was all excited, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't make it because I have plans with my friend. And he was like, cancel. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, no. And then we had a bit of an argument. He wasn't really happy. Anyway, cut long story short, the party happened. He went off with someone else. Honker, right? Another arrogant brat. So I was left a bit reeling, and I was talking to my sister. Obviously, she was comforting me, or not, as the case may be. She was a bit annoyed at me, and she said, true friendship would understand that you put your boyfriend first. Now, I don't know who agrees with my sister or who does not. I leave it with you. But I still think I made the right decision. Now, I must tell you, I had a friendship in my 20s. It was a very interesting and probably the most I learned from. A few years, somebody that was a bit older than me and somebody I looked up to. And it was all going fine until a situation happened and they behaved in a way that I was a bit upset. So I decided to tell them how I felt. And I told them my feelings and emotions about the situation, and I was faced with this response. Who the hell do you think you are, coming here, saying all this and making me feel like shit? And I was like, okay, I'll get my jacket and I'll go. I didn't mean to make anyone feel like shit. And then, sit the fuck down, you're going nowhere. I'm like, there was a voice in my head screaming, going, who do you think I am? I'm supposed to be your friend. But I said nothing. And I sat down, and Julie behaved like I had done for the years of our friendship, subservient to controlling behaviors. Now, it's interesting because I learned a lot from that. And I was quite broken, and I think you said earlier on that friendships can actually make you feel more broken than romantic relationships sometimes. And I spent my 20s feeling quite empty and quite unhappy. I actually had counselling after that breakup friendship, but I realised that I'm on the wrong page. And I realised a valuable lesson. Beware of who you look up to and why. And the fact is, I had a strong pleaser mode running within me. I was a giver, and it was coming from a deep fear of rejection and a deep need to be accepted by people. And I learned that sometimes losing people makes you find yourself. Some friends want you to stay the way you are as it suits them. And when you create boundaries, the only people who are pissed off are the ones who benefited from you having none. And when you give and you're burnt out, frustrated and resentful, they're not the ones that are there for you. I had a friend, there was a big moment in my life. I bought my first apartment and I was moving in, and I asked for her help, and she went, now I knew she was doing nothing that day. And I was like, I can't believe all the things I've done for you over the years of our friendship, and you're not helping me this one time. And she said, I never asked you to do any of that stuff. Yeah, right? Another big lesson. So, but the whole learning around this and the reflecting on it is that we co-create the dynamics in our friendships. I was giving. They were taking. And until I took the part responsibility of the building up of these friendships and the responsibility of the breakdown of these friendships, that was the biggest lesson, really. I want to introduce you to an emotion that I only learned about in the last couple of years, and it's a German word called Schadenfreude. I don't know if anyone here has heard it. And I'm sorry if there's any Germans, and I'm I've had friends who seem dead set in pointing out my failings and my imperfections and my failures, especially in the company of others. And I couldn't understand this. But there's people who are there for you at times when you're happy and you're achieving, and when you're miserable, there's other people that, it's just a strange situation when somebody you think is a friend who's not there for you to celebrate. But Schadenfreude is an emotion, and it's really simply taking pleasure in somebody else's sadness and misfortune. And one would think that it was from a superiority, but it's actually from an inferiority place, a place of fear and powerlessness in the other person. And this was a revelation to me. Everything has an opposite. The opposite of Schadenfreude is Freudenfreude. And that is taking joy in other people's success and achievements. And I've had plenty of friends to do that. And being Irish, I love celebrating everything. And I cannot do a friendship talk without mentioning my friend Kevin. Now, we started off as a romantic relationship. No, this was a disaster. But I was quite upset. He was a ladies' man. Anyway, I was quite upset. But years later, our paths crossed again, and by golly, did we build an amazing 12-year friendship. My friend Kevin died of cancer in 2018, but he left me with such beautiful memories. He used to say, Patricia, I've never had a bad day when I was with you. And I said, ditto, Kevin, ditto. So he left me with memories of a true, soulful friendship. And one of the lessons I've learned is that the friends we choose for ourselves can be a reflection of the internal world within us. And I'm grateful to all the friendships, bad and good, for teaching me the lesson and helping me to grow as a person myself. And I want to wrap this up and summarize it all and the learnings I've had in a beautiful old Celtic Irish phrase called Anam Cara. Anam means soul and Cara means friend. Soul friend, soul love, the friend of your soul. John O'Donoghue, the amazing Irish poet, has a beautiful book of Celtic wisdom called Anam Cara. I love the way he says, there is no cage for the soul. Anam Cara is the light that flows into you and into your others and vice versa. Death cannot even sever the Anam Cara. True friendship, the connection where you feel seen, heard and valued. A true friendship is a person with whom you can share your deepest thoughts, intimacies, feelings and dreams for your life. You can be you. Now, learning to get to know myself, my soul, the true essence of me, has been the most amazing journey. And this is when I understood me as a friend and the friendships that I chose to be part of. Awareness and acceptance are the most beautiful, beneficial, precious gifts you can bring to yourself and to the people around you and your friendships. Treat yourself kind. Treat yourself like you would your most treasured Anam Cara. Weegus live Galer. Thank you for listening.